Hi, I'm Mordichai the Bible Guy. Welcome to my channel. Hi, I'm Mordichai the Bible Guy. Welcome to my channel. Today, we're going to talk about some Bible facts. What do we know that's true about the Christian Bible? There are many things that people believe that are fantasy, myth, or downright lies, maybe mistruths. But for those people who have actually had open minds to look into it, there have been some major discoveries throughout our history. For instance, King David actually lived. Nebuchadnezzar actually lived. Now, these two are important because King David is one of the great and so on grandfathers of Jesus himself. The one in question, the one who's the subject of this entire book, and seems to be continually persecuted. So, we're going to just have a little bit of a logical look at Scripture here and see what is real in these 66 books. So, King David is real. Jesus himself also is real. Nebuchadnezzar, we have proof that Nebuchadnezzar was a real king and that he lived, and thus the stories from Daniel do not contradict the history that we are taught. What they do is augment it. They enhance it and enrich it by giving to us a living God who is real. Now, speaking of Daniel and Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar actually is a great example of what we need to be looking at right now in our world as far as humbling ourselves to something that we might have thought might not have been there, if you know what I mean. Because he had this issue where he thought that there was no God. And he thought that everything that he had built up, this great Babylon, that he had built it up without any help. And it was proven to him beyond a shadow of a doubt that there is a living God. Now, it didn't come easily to him. As the story goes in Daniel, it was written that Nebuchadnezzar had this terrible dream. Now, if you don't know the story of Daniel, it's really good to just open it up yourself. I prefer the King James Version myself. New King James Version if you don't like all the ye's and thous and these and stuff. So, open it up, check it out. It's a great read. I'm not going to read it to you. You can also find online versions with other people reading it for you, but I really recommend that you read it for yourself. And in so doing, invite the Holy Spirit to guide you. It will shape you and make certain that you have everything intact. We'll go into that in another section, maybe another video here. But right now we're talking about Daniel and Nebuchadnezzar. Now Nebuchadnezzar thought he was all that in a bag of chips, and he kind of was. But it wasn't on his own fruition that he was. He built up a great empire with gardens and zoos that where, like, even today, we don't really have anything as beautiful and exuberant as what they described. In our culture today, we tend not to have enough living plants and stuff, but that's another story altogether as well. Nebuchadnezzar had this great Babylon, this great empire, and, well, he was expanding and growing, and due to some other prophecy, which we will definitely cover in the future, it was his time to go into Israel and take up all the people, take over Jerusalem. He kidnapped people, destroyed things, and that's how Daniel came to know Nebuchadnezzar. Daniel was a prisoner. He was a young man. He and some friends of his or acquaintances, they were the brightest of the group in Israel there, and so they were taken in Jerusalem. They were taken to Babylon to learn the ways of the Babylonians, to learn their language, their sciences, and other things. So they weren't treated too unfairly. They were actually, it seems like they had a reasonably decent stay while they were captives, and got to know Nebuchadnezzar through an experience where he had this terrible dream that just he couldn't remember the dream when he woke up, and he didn't understand why he couldn't remember. He called all of his soothsayers and magicians and stuff and said, hey, I need to understand my dream. And they're like, well, tell us your dream and we'll tell you what it means. And he's like, no, I can't do that. Because he didn't quite remember it all himself, but he knew that if someone else had started, and you've all had this, where you'd have a dream, you wake up in the morning and go to tell somebody something and you don't quite remember it, and someone says something, hey, whatever, and before you know it, it has triggered your memory of the dream that you couldn't remember. Anyway, so this was happening to Nebuchadnezzar, and he was really perturbed. He was losing sleep over this. It wasn't making him a happy guy at all. So he called all of his folks here, these days it'd be like calling your astrologer or psychic or whatever, and I do not recommend that. And so they were all there, and they said, tell us your dream. And he said, I can't. You have to tell me, and then tell me the meaning. And they're like, well, no one can do that. And Nebuchadnezzar's just getting more irritated, so he decides he's going to murder them all. They're worthless. They can't tell me this, and this is what they're here for. Off with their heads, basically. That's not what he did, but that's the idea behind it. He was really quite upset about it. And this Daniel fellow had heard about what was going on, and said to one of his guards, or to his guard there, like, hey, I might be able to help. Can I talk to the king, right? And so he goes and talks to the king, and says, if you give me, the night, I'll pray on it, and see if my God will reveal it to me. And Nebuchadnezzar, having no other option because nobody else seemed to have any answers for him, he went with Daniel's choice. So he figured, okay, Daniel does it. He went and he did what he does, and he prays. Daniel is a great prayer. If you need to know more about how to pray, aside from Jesus' Sermon on the Mount where he teaches you the Lord's Prayer, Daniel's a great example of how to pray. So he did this, and he humbled himself before God and said, would you please reveal this to me if it's your will? And so God revealed it to him the next day. Nebuchadnezzar had given Daniel an audience again, and Daniel said to him, well, this was your dream. You dreamt you had a giant statue with a golden head and a breast of silver. And he's like, whoa. This is it. This is what I was dreaming of. Yeah, go on, yeah. And he's getting pretty excited, and he's like, and then there's like bronze and then legs of iron, and then feet with clay, mixed with clay and iron, and it's like, whoa, that's awesome, I don't think he said that's awesome, but in our day and age, the language might have been the same, who knows. But he was quite impressed, nonetheless, and asked Daniel, well, if you know this, tell me what it means. So Daniel is explaining to him that he is the head of gold. What? The head of gold? That's pretty awesome. He's getting all excited. And then there's the breast of silver. That's the next stage, right? And then there's the girdle of bronze, and then legs of iron, and then the legs of iron, they're actually, see, these are all different times. And this is what Daniel was explaining to Nebuchadnezzar, that these are different empires. You are the head of gold, and after you will come the breast of silver. And he's like, what? After me? Okay, now this is where his ego got involved, because he's sitting there, and he's like, this means that my empire will be done at some point, which means that I'm going to have to be dead, because it's going to have to be over my dead body that my empire will be gone. So Nebuchadnezzar is sitting there, not too impressed now. So it goes on with Greek and Medo-Persia and Rome, and then the feet of clay and iron, and then that's it. And you know what? Right now, we are in the feet of Nebuchadnezzar's dream. This is why it's so important for all of us to be having these discussions right now and to be looking into this. Because there are things that have been ignored and been suppressed, basically because of wrong thinking. Because there's been a war going on since before we even existed. And there's been a lot being said this way and that way, and that's why we kind of need to, not even kind of, we need to sit down and have a deep look at the information that was given to us and make some sense of it. Because the Bible is something that over the years has been translated more times than anything, stolen more times than anything. It's been the bestseller, even though they don't even have to put it on the bestseller list. It sells more, it's printed more, it's in more languages than any other book. It's the most controversial book ever in existence. And there have been people who figured, 500 years ago even, that this won't even last. And, well, for the longest time, people weren't even allowed to have Bibles. It was meant for the priests only, they thought. And that wasn't very fair, because we don't even get the whole of the information. I know I'm digressing a little bit here, but we've got this thing where if you're looking at the New Testament only, you're not going to understand what's going on, because you don't have the bigger picture. If you're only looking at the Torah, you're not going to have the full picture, because you don't have Jesus' story or the Gospels. You don't have Paul's revelation and Christ's revelation that is set forth from John's pen when he was on Patmos. So we have all kinds of interactions going on here that need to be addressed. so that we can understand why it is, first of all, that people want to suppress this information so much. Why they think that it shouldn't be heard. Even though we've got more evidence of the book of Matthew than we do the book of any of the writings of Plato or Aristotle. And yet it's still largely disputed and we don't know what's going on. So we just, have to trust, And the reason why we have to trust is because there is no other way to get through this. You've got to open your mind and your heart when you look at the Bible. Because if you don't, and you have a closed mind, you're never going to see the blessings in there. And I know this for a fact because I was one of those pig-headed, ignorant people who just assumed that it was this, that, and the other thing. And I would look at it on the surface and just say, oh yeah, it says this, oh yeah, it says that. Never went into any meaning, never went into any understanding, never delved any deeper than what it said on the surface. When I started to see that it was more than that, when it was being pointed out to me that this is a love story between us and God, it became more of a quest to understand it better for me personally, which is why I have this channel. I have been doing this my whole life, and I know I'm digressing still from the story here, but quickly, I have been doing this my whole life, and it hasn't been so prevalent in my life as it is now. It hasn't been as clear as it is now, and a lot of that has to do with my own perception and my own take on things. When I was looking at it, it was more of a scholarly kind of thing. Oh, what did this, there might have been some mistranslation, there might have been this, there might have been that, rather than looking at the information that was there, I was looking for the faults. So, if you start with the things that are true and the things that are solid, and you have an open mind, the more will be revealed to you as you invite the Holy Spirit to be with you as you're doing this. There's a lot of mysticism and spiritualist stuff going on out there, and has been for centuries and even millennia. And with that, we have a lot of misguided people. And like I said, I was one of those misguided people as well, because I didn't have an open mind. I just assumed that it was this and this and this because of what I heard, and because I'm a smart guy, and so it can't be this or this, and next thing you know, I'm an idiot because I wasn't the one with the open mind, and I was sitting there, not being a good friend to God by looking at it the way I was. So something happened in my life where suddenly I was able to see things differently. For everybody it's different. Some people, they don't need that. Some people do. Apparently I did, and maybe still need some more. But right now, this is where Nebuchadnezzar was, because he was so full of himself that he forgot that there was, or to even think that there was anything more than himself out there. And he figured that, he's the ruler, he's the king, he did this, he's in control of the army, of all the people, of all the slaves, all the education. Everybody does what they're told because he is great. And so he got a little scared. He kind of figured that this wouldn't be, the end of his empire, and the rest of silver wasn't going to happen. So what he did was, he ordered everybody to make a giant statue of gold. Some say it was hollow, some say it was solid. Read your Bible for yourself, and you will see. So we're sitting there, he's got this huge statue, and he says, okay, I need everyone to bow down to this statue. No, it was pretty much because there were some troublemakers in his camp there. It was the soothsayers and the magicians that really didn't like Daniel or his friends, because they were the ones that were able to actually do what these guys fraudulently said they could. Back then they actually had a dream book, so if the king had a dream, they would look it up, and it's like, oh, you dreamt of carrots, okay, that means that you're going to have a good spring, or something like that. And so the king wouldn't know about this. This was all what they call secret, or it was secret information. They wouldn't tell anybody that they had it. It was only for the magicians, and that's how they ended up keeping their jobs. But when this whole situation with Nebuchadnezzar came up, and the dream really excited him and freaked him out, and so he ended up building this giant statue, all of gold, and everybody decided that it was a good idea to follow the king's orders and bow down and worship this golden statue. And if you read your commandments in Exodus, you know that that's not a good thing. Thou shalt not have any other gods before me is the first commandment. So be aware of who you make an idol in your world, or what you make an idol of. It could be your vehicle, it could be your sporting team, it could be a guitar, it could be anything. So careful of those things. So Nebuchadnezzar figured, it's not about, that he could change things. It's not about what God can do for you, it's what you can do for God, basically. And so he made a huge statue and tried to usurp God's authority. I don't want to make this too long. The point of telling you the little tidbits here is basically to get you to dive in and read for yourself, or listen to an audio book, and just delve into the information and get excited about the story and understanding the stories, because as you do, you get more blessings from them. The Bible speaks for itself, and it can defend itself. I'll get into those and the scripture that back that up in future episodes, but let's get back to this whole thing. The crux of the biscuit here is Nebuchadnezzar was thinking he's all that in a bag of chips, even though he had seen that God had been able to speak through Daniel and show him the dream that no one else could show him. Even his top magicians couldn't. So he builds this giant statue. Long story short, God says, you're not all that in a bag of chips. I made you. You're nothing more than a beast, basically. So he sent him off like a beast to go and eat grass in the fields as if he were a beast. And this is the only time that we have in history where there is evidence of a kingdom where the king had disappeared. There was nothing spoken about him officially, like his kingdom kept on going, and no one had taken his throne. But we assume or have reason to believe that it was his staff that had continued to keep this going, because they were very well aware of the situations that were going on. They were there when Daniel told the dream that no one else could. They were there so they could appreciate on another level, without the ego that Nebuchadnezzar had, that this God of Israel is the God of all gods, and that it should be noted that his presence is there consistently. So Nebuchadnezzar was told that if he comes to the conclusion who it is that really is in charge, when he comes to the realization, not conclusion, when he comes to the realization of who it is that's actually in charge, then and only then can he have his throne back. And lo and behold, sometime after that, God humbled himself to our great Jehovah, Elohim, Yahweh, and we became this fantastic part of history here, because we're all descendants of Noah, whether we like it or not, whether we admit it or not. We're all descendants of Adam and Eve. We just haven't understood it the way that we're supposed to, and we can do all the DNA tests and ancestry stuff, and it'll all lead down to the same thing. Keep it going. Science, go ahead. Try to prove that different, It's not really working out so far. And so, with the whole Nebuchadnezzar thing, this is what was going on for him. He was just trying to usurp God, and God said, no, I don't think so. You're going to eat grass like the rest of the beasts out there. And so he did. And nobody, questioned God, of course. And when Nebuchadnezzar humbled himself, he straightened himself up like a man again and walked back into the castle and resumed his business. Didn't hear too much in the written history, aside from the Bible history. After this story, there was a little bit left, but there's not a lot that was said about Nebuchadnezzar, so he had remained humble by the looks of things. So the idea behind this is to get a deeper look at the Bible from a different perspective. I'm encouraging people to change their minds. This whole COVID situation that people had gone through, the coronavirus isolation thing, it's given a lot of people an opportunity to sit at home and learn different things and explore different things, and prayerfully these are going to be more healthy things that are going to, by the time we're all through this, we're going to be able to be more helpful assistance to each other rather than a hindrance to each other, because we are one community whether we see it or not. And we thank you very much for listening. There will be more episodes to come. If you enjoy this, please remember to like, subscribe, and share. Enjoy. God bless. This is Mordichai the Bible Guy, hoping that you'll hear us soon.